Before we meet our panel, I want to start off with a clip of one of our exciting new HGTV shows called Married to Real Estate. Take a look.
Let me see your face. Working with your spouse has its challenges. If you don't get out,
Bye.
But we love it.
I like your jumpsuit though.
Thank you, baby. Mike and I are obsessed with finding value in homes. And sometimes you find the most value in the ugliest ones. That's a dramatic moment. Oh my God! Thank you so much. And while we're kicking up sawdust, we're trying to manage our family. Stop being mommy, dummy!
Life gets messy.
But getting into your dream home shouldn't be.
Let's do this.
So we are really excited now to introduce you to our panel, starting with the stars of Married to Real Estate, Egypt Sherrod and Mike Jackson. Welcome to the panel.
What's up, Lauren?
Nice to see you guys, and we're going to ask you a ton of questions, but let me introduce the rest of the panel first, then we'll get going. We also would like to introduce you to Brian Balthazar, who is a pop culture expert. You've seen him on the Today Show, on hundreds of other shows, and is the executive producer for many of HGTV shows and Balthazar Entertainment. Hi, Brian.
Hey, Lauren, good to see you. Hey, everybody.
Good to see you too. And then finally, Jessica Loftus is our Senior Manager of Intern and Talent Operations at Discovery. Thanks for joining us, Jessica. It's nice to see you as well.
Hey, Lauren. Hi, everyone joining.
Hello, Jessica.
So we have a awesome panel today, and we are here to talk about lifestyle programming. But I think before we dive right into questions, I think it's great for the audience to get to know all of you a little bit better. So Egypt and Mike, why don't you tell everyone a little bit about yourselves, a little bit about your background, and a little bit about your new show, and then we'll kind of dive deeper after that.
Okay, awesome.
Well, we're married.
Definitely, happily.
Happily. We've been married for 11 years, together
11
for
years,
17
years.
years. We have 3 beautiful girls. So he's surrounded by estrogen and he can't get away from it.
I wouldn't have it any other way though. I love it. 20, 29,
Don't rush
and
her.
2.
Okay. Yeah, we have a 20-year-old, a 9-year-old, and a 2-year-old. So that's a big gamut. But what you see on our show, Married to Real Estate, is really Mike and I with our businesses. I'm a real estate broker and designer. Mike is a builder. He's a contractor by trade. And we're helping our clients find their dream home or design or build their dream home. But along the way, you get to see us and our crazy family, us managing our children, merging our businesses. You meet a lot of the characters in our lives. And it's a fun ride to get to work with the person you love and do what you love.
It's so fun. Watching your show, I think you also make people realize that it's both attainable to live this aspirational lifestyle. It's really kind of interesting watching because you make it feel like anything is possible.
Oh yeah, definitely. We appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah,
no, it's true.
It doesn't come without its stripes and triumphs and tribulations, etc. But it's something we love to do. We've always loved to do, and to do it together is it's just amazing.
I mean, listen, we've been together a long time. So when this started, it had nothing to do with a television show, nothing to do with, us putting our lives on TV, nothing glamorous. It was really just 2 people who were looking for love, and we found it in one another, and also wanted to build these businesses. So in love, taking our family on the journey of being all that we can be. And it's just by chance, by happenstance, that now it gets to all play out on television. So if we can inspire people along the way with our story, then we consider ourselves blessed for it.
Definitely.
I love it. And later on, I'm going to embarrass you a little bit, Egypt, with the story that you told me at the White House years ago, but we'll share that.
Okay. All right.
Okay, Brian.
Now, wait.
Brian Balthazar, one of my dearest friends. So it's a little awkward to do a formal introduction here, but my co-host on HGTV House Party, a dear friend, but you're also a producer for some of our most successful shows on HGTV. Do you want to tell people a little bit about what you do in your journey?
Sure. So, this is weird, Lauren, because you and I shared not an office, but we were next door neighbor office mates for many years. I worked at HGTV, actually working on one of Egypt's prior series. Egypt is a TV veteran and has had a lot of successful shows on HGTV, as many of you probably know. And Lauren and I, side by side, worked on the programming from the network side. And so, by the way, when you're asking questions, don't just ask the questions of the people he's interviewing. Ask Lauren, because he's all-knowing and incredibly talented and smart.
Thanks.
What I ended up doing was leaving HGTV to work on the production company side, because I still wanted to make HGTV shows. I just wanted to make them from the other side, which is most people would say crazy, because it's a lot of work, but it's also really rewarding. And it's great to be on the ground of the shows more often, because I found that when I was going to sets and locations, I was just feeling a real love for that. And so that's what I really felt a calling for. That's why I kept wanting to go visit Egypt when she was doing her flipping show. So I was like, I like it here. So now I get to work with people like Lauren and the fine people at Discovery, and talent like Egypt and Mike, although I'm not working on their show, but work with talent on creating programming for for HGTV or Food Network or other streaming platforms out there. So that's the kind of nutshell of what I do now.
And in a little bit, Brian, we're going to ask you about your brand new show that is going to be premiering in a very, very short amount of time on HGTV. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. And Jessica, I'm really excited to talk to you, because I think that most of the students here will find your role really interesting within the Discovery organization, because you're working with some of our interns and people that are just joining our job force and giving them hope and inspiration for what could be a really exciting career path. So could you share a little bit about what you do and your role?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Hi, everyone again. So I manage our U.S. internship program. So I have the distinct honor to bring on interns across the United States in various departments and networks for Discovery. Lots of HGTV interns as well. And I actually got my start as an intern way back in the day in 2012. So I am a product of the internship program, and also kind of shows the longevity of how long I've been here. And I think we see a lot of current interns turn into current employees. So that's a really exciting part of my job. I think there's a few floating around in HGTV. I can think of one off the top of my mind. So aside from the internship program, we also work really hard, my team, to build that pipeline of entry-level talent. So when you intern with us, or we meet you at a panel, we meet you at a career fair, we want to find the best of the best and bring them to Discovery. So we are on the exciting end of bringing in talent at the very junior level onto fantastic teams that are putting on the shows that you love to watch on Discovery on HGTV. And we run the gamut of production, development, content, digital, finance, marketing, publicity. So if you have an interest in being in television but aren't necessarily creative, there is a spot for you as well. And that's a little bit about what I do.
No, I could actually say firsthand, I was one of those people that had no one in my family that worked in the entertainment industry at all. And I started off as an intern. My first internship was at Family Feud, and then I did one at Entertainment Tonight, and I just worked my way up. So there is such value in getting in at that collegiate level and working your way up. It really is possible to set the sky as your limit. So I think what you're doing is incredible. And just a personal story, at HGTV is one of our interns that came through your program, has worked her way up and is already one of our associate producers. So we see this happening firsthand, and it's a really incredible opportunity out there too. So jumping gears, I think everyone's really curious, Egypt and Mike, about the life of being a television star and being on camera, but I don't think people really realize just how much work goes into real estate and design television, and what percentage of your day is spent doing the hard work behind the camera versus what you get to do in front of the camera. So could you share a little bit about what a typical day is like in your world?
Okay.
Oh boy.
So should you start, or should I begin?
No, go ahead and start on the real estate aspect.
Well, before we do that, I just want to kind of echo something you said, Lauren, about interning and really learning through interning, because I started as a receptionist at a radio station, and then I interned. That's how I got in broadcasting in the first place, was just, you know, working my way up. And so, yes, that's the way to go. Everybody has a different path, you know, to get to ultimately where they're destined to be. But I found incredible value in being an intern.
Agreed.
Well, I'll add to that then. I've also, you know, started as an apprentice, and I've had mentors. I still have a mentor, which I think is extremely valuable in any field you decide to go into.
But getting back to the question. Here's what I'll say. People tend to watch television, and I think, you know, many reality shows maybe have painted a picture that it's all glam. However, on this side, doing what we do in renovation, design, and real estate, it's all work. And the camera happens to be there catching it. So this is really us in our businesses with our clients. Mike is really hammering away or knocking out walls. You know, I'm really designing and redesigning and driving him crazy in the moment.
2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m.
And you live together, so it's non-stop. It's literally 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Yeah. And our 2-year-old is really screaming in the background while we're trying to potty train her. So, you know, all of this is real life and in real time for us, which I think is what makes it so special, because there's no acting, there's no script. And as many years as I have worked in television, Brian made mention, and I'd worked as a host per se of a variety of shows, and this is the one time that I'm really not hosting anything. I'm not, you know, trying to remember the lines of anything. I'm just living my life. And honestly,
our show isn't hosty. It's more so, like she said, the cameras are just there capturing our day-to-day as to what we do in real life. You know,
and I'm enjoying it more than I've ever enjoyed.
and watching it as a viewer or as even a network person, what is so fun is you welcome people into your life, so it doesn't feel like you're watching television. It literally feels like we're sleeping in your guest room and hanging out at your guy's house with you, and it's really fun. It really is fun. I think that's what makes it so contagious feeling.
Thank you for saying so.
We love what we do as well.
Yeah, you could tell.
Brian,
Brian, for someone like you who divides your days, almost split half and half between on-camera opportunities where you can spend the morning at the Wendy Williams show or the Today Show, and in the afternoon, literally on set directing scenes. How do you split your time, and how do you compare the way that your brain works in both of those different worlds?
Wow, thank you for asking. So just for folks who are just, I didn't touch on that earlier. So in addition to running a production company, I also go on talk shows to talk about entertainment or movies that are coming out. I do a lot with NBC and with the Wendy Williams show and the Today Show. And so the nice thing about those things are, it's really a very quick moment of my day, and then I can get right back to it. And as many of us are experiencing right now, we're working virtually quite a bit. So it's amazing what we have all learned to be able to do. We've really had to adapt. And so what I've learned to do to get things done by phone, by laptop, by Zoom, by what we're doing right now has been really helpful. But I think one of the things that I just try and remind myself, and I think Egypt and Mike touched on it so well, is that like people right now more than ever, I think they really want to just see people being their authentic selves and living their real lives. I think we've all watched a lot of TV, let's face it, and we have a very attuned meter for what's fake, what's staged, whatever expression you want to use, that's not legit. And so I try and live my life and like create television that is authentic and true. And then when I go on a show, I try and be authentic and true. I probably swear I'm a little bit more in real life than I do on TV, but that's just my personality. But I'm being my true self.
Can I throw in there just, you know, I'm amazed by you, Brian, and you, Lauren, and what you guys have managed to do, because so often in this business of television, you can see a talent switch to behind the scenes, but you don't really get to see the folks that make the good TV and know what goes into it switch to being now in front of the screen. And I can't tell you how many times I've turned on the TV and I've seen Brian's face. I'm like, how is he doing all of this? And I think anybody who's been around you two together knows that it was a long time coming for you to have a show. Right. You guys are a show. So well, congratulations. And I'm truly amazed by what you've been able to do in your careers.
Thanks, Egypt. Oh, and speaking of a show, why don't we tell people when they could find your show? So if they do want to check out Married to Real Estate, they could watch it, because it doesn't premiere until January.
So we've heard it's January 13th.
January 13th, 9 p.m. Thursdays
on HGTV. We're super excited.
And you can catch it early on Discovery Plus.
Can you catch it early?
Yes, you
Is
can.
that the rule?
That was the latest email that we received, okay?
Mike reads his emails. Okay, so moving on to Jessica, I think that one of the things that I'm observing just being here now is you see these sparks when you listen to Egypt or Mike or Brian. You see these big, wonderful personalities. When you are looking to discover new talent, both behind the scenes in different departments, what is it that you're looking for? How could the students that are listening right now stand out to you? What is something that you look for?
Yeah, of course. I think what they're talking about, Egypt, Mike, Brian, is that excitement for what they're doing, that passion. As an entry-level, intern-level candidate, we're not expecting you to come in with 5 years of experience under your belt, but we truly want the people who want to be working in media and entertainment. We want them to be so excited to do the smallest task to the biggest task. And I think our most successful interns, PAs, development coordinators, assistants who start out on someone's desk and turn into APs and development execs down the line, they're the ones who are just so excited and passionate and have a really positive attitude. I think, yes, there's great experience you can gain while you're still at your school, joining your television station, radio station, school newspaper, you can gain that experience. But I think having that spark for wanting to be in media and entertainment can talk the talk. Oh, I watched this last night. HGTV is doing this, but you know, History Channel is doing something kind of similar. Like, what's going on there? Reading the trades. I think those are the interns and early career candidates that stick out for us. Not tons of experience, but that passion and drive to be in this industry specifically.
I totally agree with you. I think that energy and curiosity are the most important parts of becoming successful. You will learn the specifics of a position that you're in,
Right.
but if you carry a passion for the industry or a curiosity for learning more, I think that you're going to be off to a great start.
Totally.
And we're going to do a quick round robin now, just so we each get to answer this quickly. And I'm going to ask each of you one highlight of your career that stands out. When someone asks you a question about one thing that makes you look back at your career with a sense of joy, what would it be? And we'll start with Egypt.
With me? Okay.
Yeah.
So I've had many moments that I've just stood in awe of how the universe has worked in my favor, truly, in my career. Prior to being a real estate broker, prior to my career on HGTV, I was also a radio personality, which is where I first met Brian Balthazar. I had the opportunity to interview Prince, the late Prince.
Oh, wow.
And so that is sort of, it's between Prince and Oprah and being the last person who also interviewed James Brown.
Mhm.
So those are career moments that honestly, I can't really compare, but let me just say Prince maybe, and let me tell you why. So when I was young, I was a huge, music fan. I had Michael Jackson on my ceiling, the posters we used to pull from the magazines. I had him on my ceiling and I had Prince right next to him. And so in my head, Michael Jackson was my husband and Prince was my lover. And I used to bounce on the bed and try to kiss them. So bringing you full circle, one day I was on the radio with my headphones on, looking through a magazine for what I was going to talk about next. And my producer says, "Turn around." And I do. Prince is standing right behind me, sipping on a chocolate milkshake in my studio. And I scream. I didn't do the, "Oh my goodness, hi, Prince." I did the, "You're Prince." And I crawl underneath the console across the room because I was just like freaked out.
Oh my God.
But needless to say, when I recovered and I came back to my senses, I had the opportunity to sit here with a man who, generally did not speak to the public. And he sat there with me for an hour because he heard me tell the stories of how much I loved his career. And so, I feel like when we set an intention in life and our careers, we set an intention. And I was doing that as a youth without even realizing it by putting those posters on my ceiling every day and claiming what I wanted. Because guess what? I married Michael Jackson.
That was the story I was going to embarrass you with, is that you had told me that you spent your whole life saying, "I'm going to marry Michael Jackson," and then it happened.
But again, setting that intention and working toward it with everything, because I could have never in a million years thought I'd have the opportunity to meet, let alone have a conversation, with Prince. And by the way, sing on stage with him at Madison Square Garden with Cyndi Lauper and triple stage.
So incredible. I think that the kids that are watching right now, or the students watching, need to know that it's okay to set really big goals because you deserve it as much as anybody else does. I believe that in all my heart, that when you get that opportunity with Prince, or this past weekend, I got to shoot White House Christmas again at the White House and stepping foot in this sacred place. It's like we all deserve these opportunities, and there's no such thing as dreaming too big. I think that's so important to know. But Mike, what would your light bulb joy-filled moment be?
I have to be honest, as you asked the question, my brain went so many different places. But as I sit here in the moment, I have to say right now, because you all are recognizing and getting to witness me work with my wife. That's amazing for me. To be doing something I love to do with the person that I love is mind-blowing, because initially I've never had the mindset of, I'm going to become a contractor or a builder to become a TV personality. It was just about opening up a business and doing something I love. So to be in this moment, at this moment, and understand and realize that, oh snap, I'm having to do what I love to do with my wife, right? And
I love that.
I've almost spoken into existence. I've created it into existence. I've worked it into existence. Outside of that, the other thing that comes to mind is when we redid a playhouse for, redid a room.
We built it
for a well-deserved father. He was a single father, had just recently lost his wife, 2 twins, and he had no funds to redo the room. So we redid it for them. And the feedback and the appreciation that we received from them was a highlight that will always stay with me. Those are the things that we do often, but
off camera.
And they bring such an amazing feeling to me that it sticks with me more so than the big things that may happen.
I love that. That's so special. Yeah, that is special. Brian, how about you? You've had so many incredible opportunities. I could list some of your opportunities, but I wonder what comes to mind for you when you think of something special.
My dog has an opinion. By the way, Egypt and Mike hashtag relationship goals. Did anyone else just kind of melt a little bit? Like, oh my God, I can't tell that. Okay, so in the on-camera world, I have to say, like, Lauren, doing a house party with incredible fun, like hanging out with a friend, having a cocktail or 4, and talking to celebrities and HGTV talent and just having fun. What a wonderful time. And then also being the sideline reporter for Rose Parade was amazing. And my partner of 25 years was with me on the sidelines too. So, and I think it all comes down to like something that Mike talked about too, is like spending the time that you work with people that you love and care about and enjoy. Like, you're going to hear a lot about it being a tough business, which it is. And it's a dog-eat-dog world, no matter what business you're in. But I'm here to say there is equity in being a good person. The things I decided when I started a business of my own, which is crazy, starting your own business, but it's also one of the most rewarding things you can do. I want to work with good, nice people. And what a wonderful opportunity. So doing that now on the production side, to answer that question, is really like having my first series with Hillary Farr that's premiering December 20th on HGTV at 9 p.m. Eastern. And
there it is.
Which was going to be my next question to you, but you stole the thunder. Tell us a little bit now before we go to Jessica about Tough Love with Hillary Farr.
Okay.
No, you can tell us now.
Oh, okay. So, I'm so proud of all the stuff I did at HGTV, and I still feel like I'm part of the HGTV family. Like, I'm still calling you constantly and texting you when you're in meetings, like I would then. And now having this production company, just like having a series, I have a special on Food Network with Carla Hall that's going on Discovery Plus that's airing on the 18th. And then Hillary Farr from Love It or List It, you know her as the no holds barred, unfiltered half of Love It or List It, has her own series. We did 8 episodes in Philadelphia. It's called Tough Love with Hillary Farr, and you get to see her give her unabashedly smart advice, by the way, and design renovation makeovers that will just blow your mind. And that's premiering on the 20th on Monday nights on HGTV. And I'm very excited. It's a
great show. She's literally the Mary Poppins of design. She comes in and she swoops in and takes care of it. It's like a little bit of super nanny mixed with the renovation and renovation queen.
They say a spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down, but she's a little short on the sugar. Like, got a little shortage of the sugar, but that's what makes it so entertaining. And to see your name in a credit in a way that you haven't seen it before is really wild. As I'm sure all of Egypt, you're an executive producer on things sometimes too, I know, and it's just a wild thing to see people know you as an on-camera person, but you've been in so many, your name is popping up in all sorts of places, so it must be very rewarding to see that.
So much fun. And then also, those of you watching right now, before we go to Jessica with this question, keep in mind that we're open to hearing your questions. So feel free to use the feature. We are going to take as many as we possibly can. You could direct them to anyone individually. You could direct it to the group, and I'm happy to direct them around, but we would love your questions about all things lifestyle programming. But before we do that, Jessica, tell us about one of your joy-filled highlights of something that really stands out in your career and your life.
Yeah, so Egypt touched on it, but I did have an Oprah Winfrey aha moment. The Oprah Winfrey Network is part of the Discovery family, and she came to our office when we were headquartered in Silver Spring, Maryland. And there was not one employee that was not there to watch her. And I was like, wow, this is television. We have made it. We're in TV. This is fantastic. So I've made it. But then my joyful moment could be corny, but I really am so excited when I see our interns move along in the industry, whether it's with us or outside of Discovery and are just moving around in the industry. I get a lot of excitement and joy out of that mentorship and getting them their first step, their foot in the door, but then seeing them advance and eventually someone will hire me, one of my former interns. So I'm very excited, and that brings me a lot of joy every day seeing them do so well in the industry.
That is so sweet. I think that one of my highlights, just to share too, because it was probably one of the most exciting moments of my career, was a couple of years ago, we bought the Brady Bunch house and decided to turn it into the home that you saw on the show. In reality, it was just an exterior of a home that was used for footage. And we made the inside match the outside with the entire cast of the Brady Bunch. Anyone who knows me knows that I was absolutely obsessed with the Brady Bunch growing up. Like, you could not have been more obsessed with anything in the entire world level of obsession. And to get to work with the entire cast and become friends with them and to replicate this piece of history was something I will never forget. So I do think it's fun to strive for something in your career that's even bigger and better than what you ever imagined could be possible. But now we're going to switch back, because most of the people watching are about to embark on a career. I'd love to know some advice that each of you may have for that 18 to 23-year-old that is getting ready to get started, but not exactly sure where they want to go or what they want to do. What are some of the pieces of advice that you wish you would have received when you were younger? And Mike, I'll start with you.
Oh man, I wish I would have received early to seek out a mentor, but the mentor is not going to be willing to take you on unless you're that person, like everyone's been saying, kind, you're positive, your energy is right. I'm big on energy. I always say to people, be the energy you seek to exist. For me, your relationships, make sure you sow nothing but positive energy into those, because those are going to be the things that get you through when the money seeks to exist, when things, the monetary value or the physical things, those relationships, make sure you nurture your relationships.
That is such good advice. Egypt, how about, as long as we're on your screen right now, how about you?
I echo what Mike said, and it took me a long time in my career to understand that the true value was not necessarily in what I acquired. It wasn't in awards. It wasn't in, these big moments or meeting people. The value was truly in the heart and core and spirit of the relationships you had with people, the impression you left on people. And also, instead of taking from every experience, what can I get from it? It's what can I give? How can I be of service?
I love that.
And if you're 18, you're 22, you're 24, you're starting out your career, you're trying to figure out what you want to do. I think taking certain characteristics, from that, taking what we're saying from that and really just infusing it in everything that you do. We talk so much about networking, and that word is almost overused, networking, but I believe many people use it the wrong way, thinking, how many people can I know? How many cards can I collect? How many people's profiles can I like? That's not networking. Networking is truly building substantial relationships with people, where they're not just pouring into you, you're also pouring into them, and it becomes intertransactional. And so think about that, especially if you're applying for an internship somewhere. Figure out how you can be of service, not just what can you get from the experience, because the people who get the jobs, I'm sure, Jessica, you'll speak to this, the people who get the jobs are those who leave the lasting impression, and who have poured more into the business that they're in than they've actually gotten from it.
And to add to that, I would also tell that person, that young man, that young lady, please walk into a room and say, how can I leave this place better than I left it?
I love that.
I mean, how can I leave this place better than I found it?
Yeah. No, I think that's so true. It's funny. I was in our mentor program years ago when I first started with HGTV, and my mentor, I was asking him, I was like, I want to be promoted. How do I get ahead? How do I get ahead? And he said, stop focusing on wanting to get ahead and just play the part of who you want to be. And literally within 6 months, after begging for promotion for years, which never happened, I got it when I stopped asking, and I just played that part. And so I do think it was really good advice that you sometimes need to step into your own shoes and be the person who you really want to be. Brian, what would you say to that 18-year-old Brian, or someone out there watching that is in a similar position as you were back then?
One of the things I would say is if you're shooting a video for yourself and you don't like the lighting, 2 candles from Home Goods provides a nice little uplighting on the jaw. The other thing I would say, sorry, don't let self-doubt eliminate you from an opportunity you haven't even tried to get yet. We all suffer from fraud syndrome at some point in our lives, thinking that we are not worthy, we do not deserve it. Why me? Well, my answer to that is, why not you? Why not you? You are not going to get a job that you don't apply to. You're not going to get an answer to an email from someone if you don't write the email. So if you keep waiting for the perfect opportunity, you may wait too long. And I know it's hard. There's an emotional paralysis that can come with the risk of rejection. But that is the nature of the business that we are in. And there are incredible highs. I mean, I think all of us struggle to think of which high moment that we've had in our careers. We've had amazing moments. When you work in this business, it is incredibly rewarding. And when it's good, it's great. But sometimes it's going to be hard and you're going to have to go after it. Just go after it. It's like dating. If you go to a party with 50 people there, you may only be attracted to one of them. So ask 50 people for a job. Maybe that one person is going to be the one that's the perfect job. Don't be afraid of rejection. Don't doubt yourself. Just go after it. Don't be afraid to try, and you won't be sorry.
Such good advice. And Jessica, I was going to ask you the same question too, because you actually do this for a living. You are literally advising young people on next levels, how to reach the next levels. I'm curious as to your thoughts on this.
So everyone definitely covered things that I touch on when I speak to students. But tacking on to what Brian said, I think that imposter syndrome, when you've got the opportunity, once you're there, have the confidence that I was put in this position because they saw something in me. Don't be afraid to speak up. Don't be afraid to voice your opinion, give an idea. There's value in being kind of the new person on the block. There's value in coming from a generation that some of us are aging way out of. We don't know what TikTok, I'm a big TikToker, but some people don't even understand, like, oh, if we put that on TikTok, it'll do great. So there's value in kind of being that new person that has fresh ideas. So once you get that opportunity, because I'm confident all of you will get yourselves into fantastic opportunities, is to be confident in yourself and feel like you can have a voice, be a part of the team. That's really important. There's a difference between interns or entry level who come in every day, do their job that's expected of them and nothing else. It's important to kind of contribute and become a team player. And then on the more practical side, I think all of you joining this is a very good example of this, but take advantage of the opportunities that are put in front of you that are, this one is free. Like, this is a fantastic panel. You now have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people that you can connect with on LinkedIn or elsewhere that are now kind of contacts that you may want to reach out to in the future. But while you're still in school, while you're still starting out, take advantage of panels and networking events that are put in front of you. I think in school, it's easy to kind of just go to class, go home, but there are employers on campus that want to meet students. There are different panels that you can join. So I think take advantage of as much as you can while it's still right in front of you is really important as well.
Such good advice. I would like to switch gears a little bit and talk about hard skills. I think early in my career, my dad told me once, if you could write, you could do anything. So I really wanted to know that writing was a skill that I had focused on, because I knew that if I had that in my arsenal, I could follow a number of different career paths. Are there any other skills that you think, Jessica, we'll go back to you, that you think are really valuable to hone in on if you want a career in communications or the entertainment industry?
Yep. And writing is definitely one of them. But I think if you, while you're still in school, can get the Adobe Creative Suite under your belt, or even be able to just touch it and play around with it, Final Cut, video editing skills. I know a lot of us can self-teach ourselves anything via YouTube. So if there's something that you're interested in, definitely learn a little bit more about it while you're still in school and have that opportunity. I think in terms of hard skills, as you get past being a student, there will be some things that at an entry-level role, there's a certain expectation that you know how to use a bit. So definitely take the opportunities while you're still in school to get some video editing under your belt, get some hard writing skills, soft presentation skills. you would be amazed that PowerPoints do not die after your group projects. They stay with you, and keynotes and Google Slides. So the ability to create a really nice slide presentation is an art form. So if you can practice it now, you're going to be well served in the future.
It is such good advice. Brian, I was going to ask you the same question. Other than your photo retouching skills, which are second to none, I was wondering what else we should be learning more how to do.
It's so funny you say that, because when they showed the panel of us 5, I was like, I've retouched 2 out of these 5 photos.
But you're not going to say which 2. You won't say which 2.
Mine more than anyone's. I was going to say editing, but you know what's really interesting? I'm going to just like kind of lay it out there. It's like, if I were to walk into Lauren's office, now that I don't work next to him, and say, I've got a show about people renovating and selling houses, and they've got a kid, it wouldn't impress him. Finding the right talent is everything. The reason Egypt and Mike show is great is because of Egypt and Mike. And so like, if you go into an office and say, not only do I know how to edit, I've got 5 people you need to see. I'm on TikTok all the time, and I see this renovator that's so good, or I see these renovators. Because on the paper, on the press release, let's be honest, like HGTV, it's a house-based show, so you have to have something that stands out. And Egypt and Mike bounce off the screen, but on paper, if I just went in and said I have a husband and wife who renovate and sell homes, it would not be enough. You need to find great talent. And that, if you go, I mean, if someone came to me and said, I would like to be your production assistant, and not only can I do a little bit of editing and I'm a pretty decent writer, but boy, I have 5 people that you really need to look at, I'd be like, I'd be speechless, because that's where the opportunity lies. If you find the right talent, the show almost creates itself. I wish it was that easy, but it almost does create itself. So if you are watching this and you know people that you think they deserve a show, don't just swipe up. It's TikTok, so you swipe up. It's not Tinder.
Lauren, can I add something? Like, had I known Brian was so great at retouching, I would have saved a ton of Botox. I mean, I'll just send you my pictures from now on, because
I do it weekly. He's more than happy to do it for you.
But from what I've heard, and from what I've heard so far, it's about hard work. It's also about being a good person. It's about building relationships, not superimposing, the same response to everybody, which is what some people think networking is, as we talked about. But I read a book very early on in my career, which I think helped me immensely, and it was called The Personal Touch. The personal touch is an art, and it's something that I feel is long lost, especially with the new generation, where everybody is just following and liking and commenting, is that they're forgetting to reach out and reach back to people, to simply say things like thank you, or to send an actual, and I still do this, I will send a handwritten card, not just an email, a handwritten card, because people aren't used to that anymore. So it stands out. Or when someone has gone above and beyond to help me, and trust me, just because perhaps I've reached, or Mike has reached a certain level in our careers or in our businesses, it doesn't mean we don't still need help. I am forever a sponge. A sponge means you're open to learning and absorbing from other people. And that to me has helped me grow, and remembering to say thank you to people who don't have to, they did not have to, give me advice with Mike on how to create a sizzle reel. They did not have to help us pitch a show to HGTV. They didn't have to do those things. And if they didn't, we wouldn't be where we are. And so we are grateful, and we live our lives in gratitude. And I think that if we go through our life and career, all of us, the newbies out there, and you're trying to carve these careers for yourself, make certain things your rule, which is, I'm always going to say thank you for everything. You can never say thank you too much. People love hearing it.
Do you know what's so funny? I read on Facebook last week, a very good friend of mine, and she said that her mother taught her early in life to compliment 6 people every day. And it has changed her entire life, because when you compliment someone, you create a conversation and you create a relationship, and it creates that kind of personal connection that you're talking about. So I think it's an interesting way to approach life. But Egypt, I had one more question to ask you before the questions are starting to come in. Not everybody takes one path to success. And I think that what's so interesting is you started your career in broadcasting in radio, and were you doing real estate the whole time? Did you switch gears? Like, how do you change careers while maintaining the success and not taking a straight path to it?
Excellent question. Thank you for asking. I believe that in my life, I've been able to kind of read the tea leaves and see the direction that things are going and shift, sort of before I miss the opportunity. I shouldn't even be doing this right now. If I were to go back to what my original intention for my life was, I wanted to be an attorney, an entertainment attorney. That was I was going to college and then I was going to law school. But then I started to sort of read the tea leaves and see that I had abilities and talents that I didn't even know I had or recognize in myself that could take me a lot farther. And so I took a chance. I took a calculated risk on myself. And that has also helped me transcend from working literally at Chuck E. Cheese. I was the rat. I was in a rat costume, paying my way through school, to becoming a radio personality and a music director, to then saying, I want to be in real estate now because I see that I need to have a job. I need to have a career that can sustain my passion in broadcasting, because the truth is, it can often be a turbulent path when you work in entertainment, because jobs can be far and few in between. And, as a woman, I have found that men sometimes are well preserved in their broadcast careers, whereas women, we kind of have an expiry. And so that's why we have to not only be on camera, but also find a way to create that content, to often be a creator, to tell our own story. Instead of waiting for the opportunity, create the opportunity for yourself. And that's what helped me take a risk and start my own business in real estate. That's what, helped me launch a career in design, in my 20s. And
no, but I love that. I mean, there's real value. There's real value in listening to yourself. Like, listening to your inner voice, I think, is so powerful. And you trusted what you heard, and you took chances that could have seemed crazy to the outside world, but it felt right to you, and look where it's gotten you. It's pretty incredible, actually.
I'm so proud of you.
Thank you, Sugar Booger.
It really is cool. Well, we do have some questions now. Either direct your question to one of us in particular, or I'm happy to direct it if you don't have it for one specific person. But our first question is from Aaron Davis. Hi, Aaron.
Hi, everyone. I'm Erin Victoria Davis from the University of Pittsburgh, and I have a question for Mrs. Sherrod. I've seen you as the reunion host on Put a Ring on It, which was super interesting. So now that I'm on your screen, I was wondering, how do I go about diversifying myself enough to be able to cross and bridge niche lines as talent on reality TV?
Very interesting. That's a great question. Number one, hi. And so being the reunion show host on some of OWN, which is also a part of the Discovery family, right, has been a lot of fun. It took me back to my radio roots. And again, that's one of those situations, I think, where I've maintained relationships. Even though I was no longer working in that facet of broadcasting, I maintained relationships with people, real relationships, to where and what I mean by that is remembering birthdays, when they have accomplishments in their life or in their careers, sending congratulatory messages, not forgetting to sow those seeds. So when they were looking for a host, for a reunion show, they thought of me. I was top of mind, because when people know you care, they care, right? Because there are a slew of other people who could have been hosting these things, but they remembered me because I remembered them. And so again, what I would say to you in looking to diversify, and I don't have all the details about what you're looking to do in your career, but I will tell you that I'm going to ask God to bless your path in all that you do. But we've kind of given you the keys here to success, which is be a good person, do the work, do the research, because when the opportunities come, you have to be prepared too. Can't tell you how many people have missed the opportunities they've been waiting for simply because they didn't do the work. They weren't prepared. So there's that, and find out how you can be of service. When you do those things and you build those relationships and you truly care about people and you're bringing and adding value in everything that you do, you can transcend everything. You can because you'll have people rooting for you. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So again, really good luck in all that you do. I hope I answered that question. Did I, Erin?
You're getting a thumbs up from Erin. I can see it. We are moving on to our next question from Connor Desmond. Hello, Connor.
Hi, how are you all? First of all, thank you so much for this panel and for providing insights. It's been incredible. My question is actually for you, Lauren. So I really want to begin a career in unscripted development, specifically for a network like HGTV or the Magnolia Network. But my background is pretty much rooted in scripted development. So I was just wondering how I could kind of adapt my resume and LinkedIn to shift my focus towards unscripted.
I think it's a great question. I mean, I do think that I've always believed that a good storyteller is a good storyteller. So I think that whether your experience is scripted or unscripted is less important to us than your curiosity and ability to tell a story. I think that what would be great would be to get some experience in the unscripted world, whether it's contacting someone like what Brian does, a production company, getting on a few sets of unscripted shows, even asking if you could supervise or just be shadow someone on sets. You could put some sort of unscripted content in your resume or your credits would be helpful. But I think that I wouldn't not apply for positions in the unscripted world just because that is your background, because in the end, we're really looking for people who tell stories, who are creative, who have a genuine interest in our world. And I don't think everybody has to come from the same background. In my world, it's funny, before I was at HGTV, I came from daytime talk shows and news. I had absolutely no experience whatsoever in the home content world. I was obsessed with design. I was that weird kid that was begging my parents to go to open houses because I just loved this world, but it wasn't the world that I had been trained in. But someone took a chance on me because they saw my passion for what I did and the skills that would segue into it, even though they weren't exactly right. And so I think if this is what your goal is, just start putting yourself out there, talk to everyone you can that's in this world, shadow where you can, send treatments or one sheets for show ideas that you think are worth developing so we could see how your brain works. Really just kind of surround yourself and put yourself in our world. And I think that eventually it's definitely going to happen.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Jane Shelvin is next with a question.
Hello.
Hi.
My name is Jane Shevlin. I am a junior here. I go to Syracuse University studying visual communications. And I have a question kind of for Brian and Lauren. I'm currently looking to go into the production and creative world. And I was just wondering, what's it like editing TV shows, and what's it like moving like Egypt and Mike's show, editing an episode from 30 minutes or editing all the raw footage and then breaking that down into just a 30-minute episode, and like who has the role of making those creative decisions from like raw footage to that final product?
Brian, why don't you take this one, because that's exactly what you do every single day with your production company.
Jane, by the way, I went to Syracuse too, but
Oh my goodness.
I didn't have the grades for Newhouse, so I was in VPA, and it all worked out just fine. So I know you're cold, and I'm sorry.
It's already snowing here. Yep.
They don't put the snow in the brochures.
No.
It's really an interesting question you have, because we always obviously overshoot. We want to have an abundance of video to choose from. And this is interesting you say that, because I just finished what was to be a 1-hour special for Food Network, which, as you know, like with commercials, comes down to be like 43 minutes. And it was the hardest thing in the world. There are just some things that you end up having to surrender to the editing, to the cutting room floor, I guess is the old expression of putting it. But you just have to surrender some of those things. And you know, we do like to have a very collaborative discussion with folks like Lauren at the network before we go in to shoot things. But inevitably, more things happen in real life that you also want to get. And sometimes that can shift that narrative, that storyline. And usually, honestly, when those things happen, it's usually the better thing. Then, you know, you have to have a framework. Otherwise, you unfortunately, no network is going to fund you having a camera there every day of the week. That's just the reality. So you do have to go in with a game plan of like, these are the like the signposts, the markers of a story in a renovation, especially. You want to be there when the contractor's there, or when you show up at the house for the first time. And so you can build those things in, but then inevitably real life happens. And those are when the magic usually happens. The things that Egypt and Mike see for the first time, or the things they say that you didn't tell them to say that are gold, you know? And that's where you have to make really tough choices sometimes. And then what we say on my end is like, it's my show until I give it to the network. And then it's the network show. Like, I give them the show that I think it should be, or that I think is that I think has all the elements that it needs. And then they will tell me what they really want. Because the bottom line is, as much as I want to think I'm the creator, they are the client. And it's really their show. And that's where producers and talent we all have that moment where we are reminded of that at some point, where we're like, oh, right. Like,
I would say it's actually our show. Because the way that we see it on the network side is that our production partners are creating the story, but we know our audience. So it's our job to be more of the brand ambassadors who share who we're trying to reach, and tapping into you with your creativity and your great storytelling to tell the best possible story. And if you could get both of those together, it's lightning in a bottle, because it's appealing to the people watching us, but it's also, to the best of your abilities, knowing all the footage that is out there to tell the best possible story.
It really needs to be collaborative. And that's why, fortunately, like at Discovery, at HGTV, we have a pretty open line of communication where it's like, we'll literally call my director from the set and be like, we want to take this in this direction. And, and then ultimately in the edit room, as you said, that's where you have to make the tough choices and be like, wow, I have to give up what I think is a pretty good scene because there's just not enough time.
Which is kind of a new problem. It's funny, when I started with HGTV 15 years ago, we would start a scene and we would say 3, 2, 1, say this, and they would say exactly what they said, and we'd write down and make sure that it was exactly what we wanted. And we realized the shows were feeling really antiseptic. And so nowadays, our goal is to feel like cameras are rolling all the time, and that what we're witnessing Egypt and Mike doing is what they would be doing whether or not the cameras were even there. But because of that, there's so much more footage that's shot. So I think it must be that much more difficult as a producer in some ways to tell the story, because you have so much more to choose from.
And thank goodness, though, the trend now on cable and HGTV and Food and other networks is to have an hour-long show. There was a time when it was a half-hour show and you had 22 minutes to renovate a house. And it's like, you barely have met the homeowner. Like 5 minutes in, you barely met the homeowners and found out what they want to do. And now you have like basically 17 minutes to renovate a house and show the reveal. And so it is I'm learning that answer to that question as we go. And Jane, I think the truth is the answer to that question changes from episode to episode, truly. And it's part of the fun of being in the edit though, to choosing all those things.
Thanks, Jane. Our next question, I'm sure you're welcome. Our next question is from Lisa, who is going to be off camera, so we're just going to listen for the question.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for this session. One of the questions I wanted to ask kind of everyone, I heard from Egypt a little bit, but I was just curious about, before your careers now, kind of what you originally wanted to do and how that may have deviated to what you do now.
That's a great question. I guess I'll start quickly just because it's funny. When I was a kid, I would stay up at night and dream of being a game show host, which is a bit of a strange career, but in some way it feels like it's almost come true. And so don't be afraid to put out whatever it is that you dream of. But Jessica, why don't you start with what was it that you thought you wanted to do versus maybe where you ended up?
Yes, and in true showbiz form, the fire alarm is now being tested in the office. I thought this was going to be like a very quiet place to do this panel, so I apologize if the fire alarm goes off again, but I hope it doesn't. Let's skip to someone else and I'll come back to it.
Brian, as she deals with fire alarm issues and you deal with a barking dog, why don't you tell us what your dreams were early on?
I wanted to host The Price is Right, just like you. And then I wanted to be a news anchor, and I realized I am not serious enough for that. So I feel like I kind of landed exactly where I'm supposed to be. If you follow Egypt on Instagram, she is also a thought leader, truthfully, if you don't mind me speaking while you're in the room, about manifestation and faith and following your instincts and your heart and how life guides you in the direction you're supposed to go. I hope I'm saying that in the right way for you, Egypt. But like, I'm a big
Right.
believer in that too. And we've had a few lunches where we've talked about that. And I do think I've kind of landed right where I'm supposed to be. And I also embrace where it's going to take me that I can't even begin to imagine right now. So I like to kind of surrender to the flow, as Oprah says. Oprah says the word flow a lot, and I'm a big believer in that too. So yeah, I wanted to be the host of The Price is Right. I still haven't given up on that one yet.
I think they need co-hosts. Maybe we can make both of our dreams come true together. We'll co-host The Price is Right. Mike, how about you for that question?
For me, as a young kid, I always thought I would be touring around the world as a singer. My cousins and I, we had a group that was called For You, and we would do all these talent shows. So I just knew I would be on the road everywhere, just singing and doing all types of things. But to be honest with you, for me, I've always known in some creative aspect, I would be doing something creatively, because I dibble and dabble in a little bit of everything, but I thought I was going to be on tour. I thought you would be buying my records and downloaded my stuff on Spotify.
But that kind of happened. He did go on tour with Carlos Santana. He did DJ.
Oh,
for
cool.
Carlos Santana. So that kind of happened. Like, you gotta like pat yourself on the back.
So, and what she's speaking of is the DJ aspect of my life. I've toured the world as a DJ and seen so many amazing things, met so many amazing people, and it's been a blessing. And now here I am, sometimes with some dirty clothes, building houses, renovating things, and owning my own business.
That is so cool. Jessica, have your fire alarm stopped, or should I continue skipping you for this question?
It has stopped for the time being. So when I was in school, I was a communications major, and traditionally comms majors turn into publicists and work in PR. And I will bring this back to our students who are getting internships. I think internships are a very good way to find out what you like to do, but also what you're like, don't love this. How can I kind of translate this into something else? So I had a few PR internships, didn't love them, but I kind of went still down the path of a position that I'm in now that has a lot of skills that I learned from my major, from my past experiences, and translated them into something else. And I think you take opportunities for both the benefits of them, but also to have those moments where you're like, this isn't for me, but I've learned what I can from it, and now I want to go in a different direction. So I thought I was going to be a publicist running around like on a coffee and screaming on the phone, but I'm in a much more relaxed spot now.
Tracy Roderick asks, if you know great talent that would be great for HGTV or Food Network, how do you reach out to pitch? Do you shoot a pilot first and try to shop it? What's the best way to get your show or concept noticed?
That is a great question. I would absolutely not suggest going out and shooting an entire pilot with your own money, because it's very, very expensive, and likely you would not have had the insight of the network to know what it is that we're looking for. I would always say, reach out to and connect with a production partner that works on HGTV already, because those are the people that produce all of the shows for us all the time. So for example, we have introduced people to Brian, who he's then partnered with and brought shows to us on behalf of Balthazar Entertainment, because they had a great concept. But because he's worked for us and produces for us, he always has an open door. And so I think that the best way to become part of our world is to join forces with a production partner or a production company that's already producing for us.
Armani recently graduated from the University of Illinois in 2020. Also recently completed an internship with The Late Show with Stephen Colbert. Armani's question is, how do you push through no's or rejection with the industry? And also, how do you explain a long gap in your resume when speaking with recruiters?
I think that it is a tough industry to get into, and persistence is key. I think it's hard out there. Media is not an organization, an industry where we set out with a goal of we're hiring 15 PAs for HG this year. It's on a needs basis. We have more shows, we're really busy, got to add people to it. So I think it is a little bit of timing in the formula, but I think to what Egypt was talking about, it's building real relationships when you're networking and reaching out to contacts. And the first time you're reaching out to someone after you've connected with them shouldn't be like, hi, I need help with the job. It should be an organic relationship that you have. So I think it's hard, but I think there is that persistence. And I think being able to kind of build those real relationships and use the contacts that you've had at past internships to help kind of help get you a lead. There are a lot of resumes for roles that come right out of school. And then I think to me in recruitment now, the explaining gaps on your resume, I think we now understand, especially in the past year and a half, we've all experienced that life happens. You don't need to be constantly working. There is room to have, a personal balance. Maybe you have taken a diversion where you're now becoming a home decorator, and now you want to come back and use your home decor skills plus your media background to pitch the next great show to HGTV. So I don't think you need to really worry about gaps on your resume, especially if you're just starting out. If you just graduated, we recognize that you're in school. We recognize that it is a very tough industry to crack into, and it takes some time. You don't graduate and magically have a job overnight, unfortunately, as much as we want it to be. But I think don't worry about the gaps on your resume. In the interim, pick up, temp work, contract gigs, gig work that you can do, help on productions that are local to your area, and just keep, pounding the pavement and using the connections you've made at your internships and past experiences as well.
And as for the rejection part of it, I think the rest of our panel has all done a number of on-camera jobs, and I think rejection is just kind of part of it, because you're not going to do everything you ever hope comes your way. How would Egypt, Mike, or Brian, whoever would like to answer that, how do you deal with the rejection on the day-to-day?
I'd love to answer that. I've received a lot of no's in my life and in my career, and I decided to change the way I looked at no. I found that rejection can sometimes be protection. It can be protection because this is just not the right environment for you to foster, your talent, your skills, and where you should go next. It can be protection to protect you from yourself because maybe you're not ready for all that opportunity is going to load on your plate. I also have looked at no's as in next opportunity, because you're right. Sometimes, we think that we're supposed to go down one road, and we start down that road. And then if we're hit with a no, it can feel devastating. Let's just be honest. It can be crushing. But if we look at it like, okay, so I get it. I've gotten all that I can get from this experience. I'm glad I tried this because it taught me what? What did it teach you? Everything. There's a blessing and a lesson in everything. What did it teach you? And so it means this was not my path. I'm going to take what I've learned from this path and apply it here, and stay flexible, stay open. Who said that earlier? Lauren, was that you? Or was that you, Brian? Both of you? No, Brian, it was you. You said kind of go with the flow of life. And I love that, because sometimes where we think we should be versus where we really should be are two totally different things. And if we're not flexible and can't go with the flow, we may miss an opportunity to do something bigger than we ever even imagined for ourselves.
Egypt, can I ask you a question? Oh, go on, Mike.
Yeah, I would say this: don't force yourself or your creativity through the no's, but create your way to the yeses. And what I mean by that is you're going to hear a lot of no's, right? Like my wife said, the next opportunity. Constantly keep creating, and understand that if you really believe in yourself, when the time is right, you're staying ready, and when it presents itself, you will be ready. Don't take the no as that means I'm having a bad day. That bad day does not mean a bad month, right? Or a bad life.
And
Keep
you're
creating.
enough. And you're enough.
Yeah.
I mean, so many times, and I know I've gone through this. I mean, the entertainment business can crush you if you let it. You got to develop really strong skin. Just remember, you are enough, just as you are, just because you are, nothing more. And what is for you will be for you. There is enough to go around for everybody. So you got to just keep working, really, continue to work on your craft, because there will be an opportunity that comes up that you will be ready for, and there will be nothing but green lights, nothing but yeses.
And I have a question on the other side of the no, because someone taught me early on that there's also power in saying no. And just because something is offered to you doesn't mean you have to take it either. And I think that even if you are young, even if you don't have a ton of experience, you've got to trust your gut. I remember very early on, I was offered a position, and it was just something in my gut told me not to take it, even though it was offered to me. And I said no. And 2 weeks later, I had an opportunity that changed the whole course of my career. And so I do think that it's also okay for you to be the one that initiates no, if it's for your own good and for your own best life. And I think that there really is power in that.
That's so good, Lauren. That's so real and so good. I think when you have a very clear picture of where you want to go, if something presents itself that is not going to, it's not going to feed your career, it's not going to serve your higher purpose, it's just going to take up time. And sometimes we can't be honest with ourselves about that, right? Especially when other people think something's a good opportunity. And you got to ask yourself, is this going to serve my higher good? Is this going to serve my higher purpose? Will I be happy? Will I get enjoyment out of it? And if the answer is no, then you got to go to grow. Sometimes you got to say no, thank you.
Yeah.
I think that is so important to hear early on in your life, because so many people don't feel empowered to take a stance. And I think that it's so important, if you know yourself and you know where you want to be. It's not saying to become a diva. It's not saying to be difficult for the sake of being difficult. But if you know that something doesn't sit right with you, it's okay to say next and move on to the next thing.
And I think, just to jump on that, I also think, like, not only is it okay to change your goal, but you should change your goals. I think, there's a lot of people who are like, right now, watching right now, they're like, I want to be on a TV show. I want to be the star of a TV show. And 5 years from now, you may think to yourself, oh, maybe I don't want to be, but am I giving up on that? No, you are realizing what you truly love. Yep. Maybe you're realizing that you really want to edit it. Maybe that's the part that you loved, or you really want to develop it, or maybe you really want to direct it. So I think we tend to put, a lot of people that live in New York think by leaving New York, they're giving up on something. They're like quitting. No, you're not quitting. You're pivoting and following your passion. You're following your flow. You're following your flow. You're following your, what you want at that given moment. And that is more than okay. I think it should be expected. You should be shifting and adjusting to create your happiest life every day.
You are so right, Brian. It's funny. I'm born and raised in Los Angeles, which is like the entertainment epicenter of the world. But I had the opportunity to move to Knoxville, Tennessee to work for HGTV. And my family and friends thought I was nuts. They said, you're the one person who's from the one place where you could do whatever you want in the city. But this opportunity, it felt right. It was my yes. And when I had that opportunity to move there, I knew that it would be the start of what would be an incredible opportunity and career. And it was the single best career decision I ever made, because I went with that flow that you are talking about. So I do think you need to listen to your gut on those instances.
That, truthfully, I think that we all tend to think that the next job is going to be the job, but actually the next job could be the lily pad to the job. And so Knoxville was a great job at that moment, but it was actually the lily pad. Now you're in Manhattan, the epicenter, the hottest city in the world, on the planet. And it's okay, so we all want the next job to be the perfect job and be the one that we want to be with forever. And that is not likely to happen.
That's right. I like the lily pad analogy. I've never heard of that, but it really is true. That is actually very true.
And so let's think about the jobs and the positions and the opportunities that we take as how does it pave the way towards happiness if it is not the ultimate happiness? Because few things are the ultimate happiness, truthfully. Is it guiding you to the next thing that could be great? I worked on The View. I was the co-executive producer of The View for 5 minutes. I didn't like it. Anyway, but we had a panelist on the show. Her name was Nicole Wallace. And she is she's worked for the McCain campaign. She's in the political zeitgeist. And I remember saying to her, this is not the ultimate job for you. This is going to get you to the ultimate job. And now she is killing it in prime time, poised to be the next Rachel Maddow on MSNBC. But you would think that The View was the job, but it wasn't the job. I mean, it was not the right fit for her. It wasn't the right fit for them. And now she's even better. It was she's now living in the news world, which is where she always belonged. But don't think that tomorrow is supposed to be perfect if maybe a year from tomorrow is going to be really that much better.
It's so helpful. We have one last question, but before we get to that, I really did want to ask Jessica this question, because you are in the position of actually recruiting and bringing on new talent. Do you think that there's anything wrong with someone that is young or in a position asking to find something else, to switch departments, to move teams? How does it feel as someone working internally who's working with people who are also trying to pursue their dreams?
Yeah, and that's a great question, and I did want to kind of chime in, but I think there is nothing wrong with wanting to get in at a company and kind of take on different tasks and do different things. But I do think there is something to be said about joining a company and doing a really great job at what you're doing before kind of bringing up that conversation, and also being mindful of not taking a position, any position, just to get your foot in the door if you're not going to make the best impression at it. So I think
Agreed.
I do see sometimes people will join the organization any way they can and want to do kind of a 180 into a different role. That's a little challenging for us. And it is a business at the end of the day. As much as we follow our creative passions, we're creative. At the end of the day, it is a business. So we do need you to come in and want to do the job that you're going to do at 100%. But there is so much room for growth here. I think, Lauren, you know this, being here with our guiding principles, good ideas kind of come from anywhere. We love creative dreamers. So there is that opportunity. If you're in production and want to pivot to the digital side, there are those opportunities, and we love great ideas. They can come from anywhere. But I think you also just want to keep in mind, like, you're joining an organization and you're going to want to do a fantastic job at what you're doing, and you're going to need to spend that time in that role. So it is okay to say no to something that's going to take away from your actual passions. But I think, yeah, I mean, there's so much development here. And I think a lot of our managers and organizational leaders want to have the conversations early and see who's key talent and who's going to, rise up through the ranks and have the good ideas. And it's the ones who go above and beyond and are happy in their role and do a great job before they take on, extra responsibilities as well.
Such good advice. Well, we do have one last question before we wrap things up. So let's take our last question.
Okay, so I have a question from Atia Goldsmith, who's finishing a degree in management and also says they're a big fan of Egypt. Atia's question is, what is one of the biggest catastrophes that you witnessed while being on set of a TV production set?
Oh God, I have one that I'll just do quickly, which was like the single low point of my career. We were shooting a live television show in the middle of nowhere in North Carolina. And it was at the top of a hill, and the show was going live on Saturday night at 9 p.m. And at 6 p.m. on Saturday night, the satellite truck could not get up the hill. So without a satellite truck, there's literally no way to broadcast the show that we had been rehearsing and practicing and getting together. So I gathered myself, I threw up in the corner, I pulled myself together, literally, and we were trying to find another satellite truck, and we ended up using microwave vehicle that did local high school sports in the area. And by the grace of God, the show went on the air. But it was that moment of thinking that all of this hard work was going to become a complete catastrophe and not hit air. And it's one of the things that I remember to this day. It's like, have your freak out, do your thing, and then you better come back and come up with a solution and figure out how you're going to resolve this. That would be mine. Brian, what about yourself?
Oh, well, I mean, for like yourself, Lauren, I worked in live television for a long time, and I worked at MSNBC. I was a senior producer on Lester Holt's first show on MSNBC when he joined the NBC family. And I not to bring the room down, but like there would be, I was not prepared emotionally for the kind of things that happen in the news at a moment's notice that I could not emotionally wrap my head around. So there was like some pretty heavy news events that were catastrophic that I just was like, oh my God. So that's where I was like, I gotta get to the entertainment side of things. This is not the right side for me. So I got out of that side and worked on the more featurey stuff. I could do news, but I absorb all that energy from pretty heavy news events pretty deeply. So yeah. I've never had anything like really go really horrifically wrong on live TV other than like news just hitting me hard. And that was really hard for me. So that's a little dark, but yeah.
How about Egypt and Mike? Any funny or catastrophe stories?
We were just talking about this. We did have you want to talk about, we had a renovation
we had a renovation issue recently on a show. Well, HGTV rocked the block, but we can't put it out there yet. So,
because you're going to see it on TV. With that, there was another show years ago. I was about 25. I worked on a show for NBC. It was called Home Delivery. Mm-hmm. And we would show up, do these door knocks, and try to deliver something that helped change someone's life. And so this particular particular episode, we were showing up to the house of a woman who weighed 700 pounds. She had lost her son, she lost her mother, and she just kind of fell into this depression and started gaining all weight. And family members of hers were concerned. They wanted to get her up and out of the bed and out of the house and into, you know, a program that helped her lose this weight. So we went to do the home delivery door knock, and we delivered the news to her. The problem was they couldn't get her out of the building. No one thought, hello, she can't fit through any of the doors. So it was dehumanizing, you know, to witness that. I cried with her because, you know, it was just so much attention to the point where they had to call a fire department, and they broke the whole wall down to get her out of the building. So as you can imagine, it was very, very emotionally infused. There was nothing any producer or anyone could have done to prepare me or anyone else for it. It was the first time, when I say I bawled, I cried. Like a baby on television. They actually aired it with no intention, but you know, you could just imagine what that does to a person, that the whole block is watching someone rip down a wall to take you out of the
I mean, to turn this around and to wrap it up in a more positive way, I think one of the most beautiful things that we all get to do is celebrate the human experience and to connect with people that you might not meet in other ways, and to be able to tell their stories. And hopefully the opportunity of her being on that show and you being a human and being connected with them hopefully changed her life in a beautiful way.
And thank you for turning it around into something positive.
I can't end with something too negative. I'm too emotionally driven myself.
Good job, Lauren. Good job.
You're a great host.
Thank you. I cannot thank all of you enough for joining today. I hope that everyone who watched this got something out of this panel, that Egypt, Mike, Brian, Jessica, thank you so much for joining this panel, and thanks all of you for watching and contributing today. And we hope to get to join you again in the future for another one of these great conversations. So thanks. Have a great afternoon.